Good afternoon. I was waiting for like some kind of a light to say I was on, but good afternoon, everyone. Nanggabi ko indígena kas kipiguen de rodem. Shishiguaning dun. So my name is Angela Benedict. I work with Anishinaabe Nation. I will be facilitating today's or this afternoon's sessions. So, welcome to the Learning with the Land for Mental Health and Wellness with Chris Morrison with the Indigenous Men's Alliance. So, Chris Morrison is a father, husband, brother, son, teacher, trapper, hunter, fisher, and fulfills these roles and his responsibilities by living by the 7 values of truth, respect, wisdom, honesty, love, humility, and courage. His goal is to teach others these 7 values for success in a paradigm-based approach. Chris enjoys meeting new listeners who are open to learning about his approach, taking a balanced approach for learning and teaching. So, miigwech, Chris, and take it away.
Well, Jay, good afternoon, everybody. Like Angela said, I'm Chris Morrison. I'm the founder of the Indigenous Men's Alliance. And like she was saying, I'm a father. That's my most important role. And then being a husband to my loving wife. So for, I guess, the past 20 something years, I've been a teacher, and that's been my main role. And so my goal is to create a brave space for Indigenous men, and then create a brave space for whoever is in my presence. And so I use the 7 grandfather teachings, the grandmother teachings, to do that. And I created this model using the 7 grandfathers for success, whatever success means to you. So I want to say thank you for joining in today. It's been, what can I say, challenging few week, I guess, considering the 215. And a little bit about that is like, I want to start with my place first about that, and before I continue. So I'm a first generation survivor of the residential school system. My uncle, my oldest uncle and my oldest auntie died in residential school. And they, what can I say? My grandparents weren't even told about that until they came from the trap line late in the spring. And so it was, I didn't even know I was carrying that trauma until maybe about 6 years ago. And so then I think about like where we are right now. I know other guests, hosts, speakers will be mentioning it. And it does a lot on our thinking, our thoughts. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is your mental health, how you can relate it to the land, so that you can have that wellness about you. You know, there's the 4 aspects, you know, our mind, our heart, our spirit, and then our bodies. So they're all interconnected. And so my approach to teaching about that, it ties in with the 7 grandfather teachings. So when I begin these teachings, I always start with the circle. So the circle. So we have a circle, you know, and then we were all a part of this circle. Like we came to this event and we joined the circle. So at the center of that circle is that idea, that fire to be a better educator, you know, to be a better leader in our school systems. So with this circle, there's 3 parts. So we have the inside, we have the outside, and then we have the line. This totally relates to our schools. In our culture, it relates to our bodies. You know, it relates to me, my family, my community, and then my nation. And so how you can relate this to your school is this is your classroom. You know, all of those students come to that classroom. They come to the circle. I used to teach grade 1, And I used to tell them, everybody come to the circle, come to the circle. And so when we sat in that circle, I sparked that imagination within them. Here's the idea. And then they would share and contribute to that spark. And they would all join in, and everybody was contributing, whether they were listening or sharing. And so I just sort of, adjusted them around, ask this person to speak, ask this person to speak, to feed that fire. And so when this classroom is connected to, when that classroom is connected to another classroom, then it creates our school, the entire school. And then that school is connected to the community. And so when I begin my lessons like this lesson, this is why I always start with that circle. So you can think of the medicine circle, and it's 4 parts. So here's my medicine circle. There's 4 parts to it. So the way that I teach about the medicine circle is that it's comprised of 4 circles. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want to start with the mental aspect of the students, those ones that we care for, yourself, your family. So within our mental well-being, and when we're on the land, so we can think about, us standing, And so what helps us to stand is our support system. So you think of those students and their mental well-being. They need that support structure for them to be healthy, to think good about themselves so that they can think good about their environment, so they can think good about their circle. And what creates this circle is this triangle. This triangle is the strongest shape in our universe. And so when you have these triangles, there's 1, 2, 3, and then there's that base triangle, then they'll have a strong foundation. And so what we do as teachers for that mental wellness, that fire, to think good about who they are, we feed that fire, whether it's with encouragement, whether it's with praise, however you want to help them to think about who they are, maybe what they're doing, who they're helping. And so when I teach about the medicine circle, I teach about this structure. Who is supporting that student with their mental well-being? And then you go into their emotional. So that was their mental well-being. And then you go into their emotional well-being, their emotions, how they feel. So the same thing with how they feel, like who is supporting that student with how they feel? It's the same thing with you. Do you have somebody supporting your emotional well-being? And then you go into your spiritual, your spirit. Your spirit is about your attitude. Do you have a good attitude? Who is supporting you to have a good attitude, to have a positive spirit? Because it starts with our mental well-being. We think, and then we start to feel, which affects our attitude about things. And then we physically go through the motions. If we're thinking good, we're going to feel good. Then we're going to have a positive attitude. And then we will physically show all of these aspects. So this circle, I'll show it on here for a second. So when you think of this medicine circle, again, it's a circle. So you think of this circle, it's got these 4 parts. But within that structure, like who is helping that student with their mental well-being, and then who is with their emotion. However you want to teach this is taught in different ways. And their spiritual and their physical well-being. So when I think about this circle, it's more of like a sphere, like a cell. We're all like living cells. We all join together. We're all attracted to one another, whether it's the not so good, the negative attraction, or the positive, how you're attracted to positive things. And then some people are attracted to negative, and so I think of that as a sphere. You can think of those little kids as a sphere, or you can think of those people within your organization as like actual living cells. And so they're all a part of that circle. They're all a part of that being, and within our culture, within Indigenous cultures, we think in a circular way. We think of that attraction. We think in threes. So back to, I sent out these handouts. I don't know if you downloaded them or had a chance to do that. There was 3 of them. It talks about the foundation, and then it talks about this paradigm. It took me 2.5 years to figure out this paradigm. I'm not sure if you had a chance to print it off. This is for something you to follow along with. So within our Indigenous cultures, I was talking about that element of 3. When we're on the land, we have the land, we have the air, and then we have the water. Land, air, and water. So this makes up our law, LAW, the natural law. And so when we're out with the land, this is another aspect, a concept that I would encourage you to think about. A lot of times we'll say we're on the land. We're on the land, we go on the land, but we actually go to be with the land. This law, these 3 elements, is our mother, well, you could say mother nature, right? Mother nature's law, our mother's law. And so on the land is a different concept to being with. We're with our mother and all that she's created. And then we're part of the living, I guess, cell, if you want to say, the living, and we're being with her. So this is those 3 elements again. So when you think of that triangle, you have the land, the air, and the water. Those 3 things working together to provide that structure, that support system for all of life. I'm going up really quick through this. I wanted to get through this so that you can have this structure or have this mindset about the triangle, the circle, the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical aspects. All right. So when I talk about and I teach about the students and their mental well-being, it's that environment that you create in your classroom. I asked my elder, like, why does it feel so good when you go out with the land, when you go to be with the land? And he said, it's because out there, it's a balanced place. It's a balanced environment. A lot of times we will go into a space, a place, we'll go into a place and we'll be, I guess you can say, uneven. We're uneven. We're uneven in some of those places. Same thing with right now. I think about here, I'm in Peterborough on Mississauga territory, and the city is not a balanced place. There's the constant noise pollution, people walking by, and there's all these disruptions. And so it creates an uneven environment. And so within our schools, we need to think about, what makes our environment, our classroom, a balanced place. It's easy to, what can I say? It's easy to be in a balanced state, to think in a balanced state when you are in a balanced place. That's the thing about going for a walk. Go for a walk out into nature, and be with our mother, because she's there to take care of us. Mothers know what life needs. When I was talking about that circle, the inside of that circle is considered our mother's space. She's our water carrier. And so water gives life, and mothers know what life needs. And so we're carried in her water. That's our first home. So within that home, in our first place, and when I relate it to being with our mother on the land, with the land, with her, it's that structure. So we learn the truth. The truth is our mother will take care of us. Our Mother Earth will take care of us. So we learn the value of respect for her. We learn respect. And so what creates that triangle is truth, respect, and then we develop the value of wisdom. I'm trying to write bigger here so you can see it. So we develop the value of wisdom. And there's that triangle structure of who we are. When I was speaking, or when I was thinking about when I was teaching, I don't know my students' truth. I don't know the people's truth that I meet. It's not until they are honest. This is the most important value that we can have within our places, within our environments. Because without honesty, honesty is something you display. I cannot see somebody's truth. I don't know how much respect they have until they show it in their actions, when they act out of love. It's that act of love, and when you do everything out of love, only good things should happen. So they show their respect and their love. They may not love everything or like everything, but they will have that element of respect within them. And so they display that. So these are what you display: honesty and love. You have truth, respect within you. And so when we get to wisdom, how do we get more wisdom? Wisdom is about humility. When we have humility. Humility is about when we try something. When we try something, or we ask a question. So when the students are with the land, they're thinking, they're feeling, and it's affecting their attitude as they physically walk, from place to place. So within this paradigm, within the structure that I teach, is that they're getting those answers. They're getting answers to feed their wisdom. And they're also, what they're doing is they're looking back. They're looking back, whether if they're walking with the land, they're walking and they look back of where they came from. What did they learn along the path? And so when they get back to your classroom or within your circle, even within your home, you might go to work and then you come back. Like even this event that NAN is hosting, you're going to take those questions, that humility aspect, and you're going to give your school, your classroom, yourself more options. So wisdom is about options. You have a long list of options. And so when I talk about these options, that's what we're trying to create for our students. We're answering their questions so that they can have the wisdom to respect the truth. A lot of times, we don't get to that aspect of humility. A lot of people in general, they just keep doing the same thing over and over. They don't look back on how they can improve. They don't look at how what they learned becomes a new truth. That's the other part. Humility is about knowing. and then you come up with this new truth. So as teachers, as educators, we work for those 5 words, like, oh, now I know, right? That's all. That was my best, most rewarding time of the day. So when a student's like, oh, okay, now I know, right? And so they come up with this new truth, like, now I know the truth, now I know the fact. And so they respect the fact. They respect that, and it gives them that option. And so then they act on that. And then how they display it is within their honesty. Honesty is about making a choice, deciding. I decide on my actions. So when they're within their environment, whether it's a classroom environment, whether they're with the land, they're going to be thinking about being with you. You think of our leaders, principals, educational directors, all of those people are part of that environment. They're contributing to it, whether they're bringing a positive attitude or a not so good attitude. It's going to affect your circle. It's going to affect the true story of your school. And then people are going to either find out if that's your truth is respectful or disrespectful. That's the other aspect. I don't like to spend a lot of time on the disrespect aspect and not so good part, because I think we need to focus more on the truth, on the strengths of our students. Does this make more sense? It's this is a tough way to do these Zoom meetings because I can't really see your faces. So when you have this even, with the 7, you have the 7 grandfather teachings, and then you use this model, what is at the center of it, what's connecting all of it, is the value of courage. Courage connects all of this. It's courage that brings you all together. So when you have this structure, let's say for mental well-being in your classroom, you're respecting the truth of that individual, and then what you're doing is you're encouraging them. You encourage them with encouragement. So with encouragement. So courage within my culture, it means to help him or her. The prefix en means to make. So to make help for him or her. And then meant means a result. So to make help a result for him or her. That's what our courage does. We're making help a result for students and their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being. We're making that help for them. And so when you have all of these people within your organization, within your classroom, the stronger that structure is going to be. Some people will get out of line. They might be off the line down here. And this is where you have that leadership, whether you're the teacher, is to put those students back in line so that they can fulfill their role to encourage one another, taking their spot, and so they all connect at the center. They all connect at the center, whether, let's say this student over here connects with this student right here. It's making a big triangle, but they're connecting at the fire. So it's all of these circles, these students interconnecting. So it creates that web that when you think of the dream catcher, it's sort of the same aspect. You're creating life. And then that's where the life is happening in your classroom, within your organizations. Like that dream catcher is, you can say it's like your network. You know, the dream catcher is it's a, what do we call it? It's a life story. You know, creation. You create that fire, and then it begins this entire web. You think of the World Wide Web, the internet, massive amount of people connecting, interconnecting, just like we're interconnecting here. It's the courage of all of us here coming together to help a result. And so what we're doing is we're creating these options. You're going to be taking this wisdom back with you. You know, this teaching, you know, the medicine circle teaching, but the main aspect that I want you to take away from this is to think about yourself. You know, if you can make this yours and then you can display it, you can, you know, follow this model for your success, then you're automatically going to start to give off the vibe to be successful. You know, you talk about the photonic energy. The photonic energy in your classroom, we give that off, whether it's a positive energy or a not so good energy. That's a big takeaway from this. Okay, equity. So that's the structure. That's the model of. I only have like 15 more minutes. This is really pushing what I teach. It usually takes me all day to teach one of these. It's like I'm giving you 4 in 1 in less than an hour. Okay. When you have this this place of balance, right? You have this place of balance, and when you have followed these 7 teachings, you know, you're going to have a place of peace. That's what we want in our classrooms. We want it to be peaceful. We want the students to be at peace. We want them. And so when you think of this place of balance, it might be uneven, you know, and so in order to have peace, you know, we have to create an environment that is peaceful. And so the students might come and they might imbalance it like this. But when they're walking with the land, it's a balanced place, you know, and so if they're walking along, they'll automatically start to become balanced. It's a given. Hopefully, if they have that support structure. So when I talk about the success of students in their classrooms, you can think of when they go from grade to grade. Let's say it's grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and then grade 5, right? And so each student has their own identity. You think of this as your environment, you know, so they come there and they come to your school. They come to your school and they're all in each grade, you know, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, whatever. And so within this aspect of where your success comes from, it comes from, you know, your gradual learning. And so when you this also relates to being inside of your first home. You know, you think of this as Mother Earth or your first home, that first circle, that seed planted in there, which is their identity. And so it takes courage to grow. You know, the other aspect of courage is you cannot give the students courage. They already have it. What we do is we encourage, you know, we make that help a result. We encourage them, and we encourage them to tell their truth, by being honest. And then they learn to respect. They learn respect within your circle. And then they learn wisdom. You know, those are the inner values that we learn inside. When I was talking about that circle, you know, that the woman's space is, you know, we learn that inside of our mom. We learn the truth, she's going to take care of us. So we learn to respect that truth, which gives us the value of wisdom. And it's our courage, the main core root value of courage, that is first to show when we come through her water. onto the land to breathe the air. It's our value of courage that comes. When those students enter your classroom, the first thing that you're going to see is that value of courage. And then they're going to display their honesty. They're going to show their honesty. They're going to show their love. And then they're going to show their humility, those aspects. And then they'll grow within your classroom. When you think of all these branches, that's the information that they gather in each grade. You know, as they progress from each grade, you know, they're going to become more and more full of that, the truth that you're sharing with them. You know, when your honesty, telling the truth, sharing those true stories, facts. And so what happens is they grow like this, they branch out, they become full, and then they move on to the next grade. They become more and more full of knowledge. You know, they know more and more. They come out with new truths. It's very different from when they were first growing. And so within our schools, within our organizations, you can also see those students. Let's say this is a student and they look up to people. Maybe they're looking up to you. So what you're doing is you're sharing information with them. You're nutrientizing their minds so that they can feel good and then have a positive attitude. And so what they do is they share that with the next person with them. Maybe it's their brother or sister at home. Maybe this is mom or dad. You know, they look up to mom, they look up to dad. For me, I look up to my older brother and my dad. And then my younger brother and my sons look up to me. And so we nutrientize all of this information. You know, we're full of knowledge, things we know, new knowledge. And so what we do is we need to share that, because when we're honest, then we absorb it into our truth. You know, we don't know somebody's truth until they show it. They tell us in their honesty. This is why I say honesty is the most important value that you can have within your classroom, within your home, within your work spaces. Because without honesty, there's no truth. It'll be disrespectful. And so you just ends up being a not so good choice or option. You know, you picked the wrong option. And so within your classrooms, within the people that you look up to, people who are looking up to you, maybe you're a leader in the classroom. You can think of this structure as maybe this is a new teacher. You know, they're looking up to those more experienced teachers, ones with more training, to share that information, to pass it along. So when you have these these 7 foundational values, you know, then you'll be successful, because you're all connected by those root values, because your root values shape your beliefs. And when everybody is starting to believe in the truth, being honest, there's going to be that respect, that love, the love for teaching, the love for those kids, and then it's going to create a warm environment. Remember when I was talking about the fire? You know, the fire, it's all those students bringing the positive energy to your circle, to that fire. They're putting that in there, and then it's going to create a warm classroom. And then all those warm classrooms are connected, which creates a warm school. Whether you're in an office, you know, you're going to bring that warmth, that positive attitude, that positive energy, and then you're going to energize. All of you will become synergized. You know, all of your energy is working together, because you're following the 7 teachings. Like that one. That's why I call it the model for success. It doesn't matter like where you are on your path, your circle. It's up to you to be honest with yourself, with the truth that you have, and respect your truth. That's the other aspect, is you respect the truth. And then you look at your wisdom, your options on how to do that. So the last part of this teaching when you think about the student, that student's identity and their connection to all of life, to be at peace, to be in harmony with the environment, your classroom, your schools, you can take away all of these values from them. You can see this right now. I don't really want to refer to this right now, but it's a good teaching. You can cut that indigenous person down, you can cut that person down, take away everything they have, but the core value that is left is that value of courage. It's that courage that is there. It's always there. And so what happens is within your classrooms or within your families is that it's the courage of all of those other people coming together. These poles represent, well, when I teach the men and when I teach the kids, it either represents fuel to make a fire, to make a fire in your circle, or it can represent the person, the person standing on the line. And so with all of your students, they represent those poles. They represent them coming to your school, your circle, and then it's their courage. Like I said, their courage at any age. That's the aspect. They all have that courage. But it's up to us to encourage them to come to the circle and then connect with one another and then display that honesty. I know I'm going back to this, but it needs to be told and retold. And I'm trying to do it as fast as I can here so that you can go away with this model for success so that you can be successful and then you can have success for your students. The main aspect that I teach, it comes from this model. So on here, I teach the students about, who am I? I am a dad, I'm a teacher. And so when I give them this worksheet, I get them to, put a line right here. They put a line there, and then some of them might say, I am a brother. I am a brother. And so when they look in the mirror, when I look in the mirror, this says, am I? And so I ask myself, who am I? And so they can ask themselves that too. What you're trying to do is you ask them those questions and you ask them who are you? Who am I? Well, then you teach them about these values for their success. And then they can figure out, being a brother, how can I be successful at being a brother? I'm a brother. And they think about their role, their responsibility, and then what they bring to this structure. Maybe they're a student, your role as a student, I'm a student. And so then they begin to fulfill who they are, and so you teach them about the structure. There's nothing more powerful than students thinking good about themselves. And because they're going to feel good about themselves. And then that energy is going to be given to the other students, and it's going to uplift their spirits. The other part of our medicine circle teaching is that we're perfectly spiritual beings. Our spirit just uplifts us. It just goes back into a resting point. We have low spirit, or we have really high spirit, a really high positive attitude. But it's our thinking and then our feeling that helps us to uplift our spirit, and then which ultimately helps to uplift other people's spirits. So because if we're not taking care of ourselves, our mental well-being, it's going to affect our heart. The other aspect is we can think good and we can think not so good, and we can feel good and feel not so good. But our spirit just uplifts us or goes into a resting point. And so what we're trying to do with, well, what I try to teach is these 7 values so that the students, can be successful at being who they are, which is really important to their identity. I'm a teacher, I'm a sister, I'm a brother. And so that's the way that I teach this, mainly to men right now, but I do workshops for kids within leadership organizations. And I find it very fulfilling. That's the other thing about, we think about spirit and then we think about our soul. So you can think of your classroom, or your school, that physical school classroom. We refer to that as the soul. That's the soul. And so what you do is you fill it with spirit, that positive spirit, that positive attitude, which comes from people feeling good about themselves and then ultimately thinking good about themselves. And so when you have that positive spirit being put into your classroom, that positive energy, they're going to start to believe. They'll believe in one another. They'll believe in you. And so then that becomes fulfilling. When all of that positive energy is in your classroom, it fulfills you. Then you think and feel good. And so you find fulfillment in teaching or find fulfillment in your position. So this is what I teach within the Indigenous Men's Alliance. I'm the founder of the Indigenous Men's Alliance. And so this is the model that we follow for our success. And I hope that this can you can transcend this into your classrooms, into your life, and to your family, to your nations, so that we can all come together and create, that warmer place, warmer communities for all of those kids within there. Agade, I'm Chris Morrison, and I'm the founder of the Indigenous Men's Alliance. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Chris. So we have 1 minute before it gets to be 2:45, which is when our break starts for the next session. You have a couple questions. So the first one being, what would considerations be for students with autism with your model?
Oh my goodness. I worked with, for the first, 7 years of my career, I worked one-to-one. The first 3 years was with a student who had autism. And so the thing with him and his support structure, a lot of it comes from home. And so how we create this space, it's a lot of it has to do with, it's been a while. So it has to do with their circle. When they come inside and they walk their path, as you can say, when they begin to the end, you can think of that circle, and if it's I can say a bumpy, if some things are not in place for that circle, it'll be tough. Was the question referring to being in the classroom or on the land with the kids?
It wasn't specific.
Oh, yeah, the students, when they are, like, the boy's name was Ty. Yeah, when we were outside, he was just loving it. He would hum, look at the kids, smile. Everything is so like balanced for them outside. I have a little baby girl, and so every time we walk to the door, she gets all excited. And then what's tough is bringing those autistic kids back into the classroom. I hope that helps. You can email me. My email is on there for more ideas.
Miigwech, Chris. For anyone interested in sending Chris a message, on the homepage of the forum, there's a section where it says speakers, and you can find Chris there. Send him a message. So miigwech, Chris, for your time. The oh my god, the play to win code is on the screen, so do not forget to put that in so you can win the prizes. We are going to be taking a short break and just head back to the agenda for the next session, and we will see you at 3 o'clock. Miigwech.